What dirty little secret of someone else's have you been dying to tell? A very prominent business owner once drunkenly confessed to me one night while I was working at a bar that he loved to be dressed like a lady and let his wife peg him. Well, this being a redneck town of 3,000 people, I found it best to let him forget he told me. I know a guy who made over $1 million in precious metal recover from old factories and managed to get away without reporting it to the IRS. My co-worker let another co-worker to teabang her while her husband was away in the army, whilst another co-worker had sex with her friend in the same room. 2 co-workers of mine are bumping uglies. Not only did I catch them coming out of an area they had no business being near, but I have also seen them together in public. They are both married, and the dude and his wife have a newborn. Late to the thread, but I'll share anyways. I know this girl. Let's call her Carly. Carly was a good friend of my ex. And my ex being the big mouth, she has told me this story. Carly was at a party dealing for some people, just standing around when Chode McGee walked up with his intoxicated friends and started hitting on Carly. Carly was bored, so she didn't tell Chode and the boys to duck off just yet, but started talking to them. Their conversation somehow got to Chode asking Carly if he could lick her asshole for $45. Carly obviously said no way. That's disgusting. But alas, Chode was persistent. Chode offered more and more money until him and his friends had pulled all their money they had on them for $220. Carly bent over, let Chode fulfill his smelly dream, and then left with her friends as if nothing had happened. Edit. Deeding is designated driving in my area. I assumed everyone knew what it meant. One night, my boss left to go home. I was still working and heard a phone buzz to my left. I looked over and he had left his phone. I thought the buzzing might be him using his wife's phone to try to find it or something along those lines. I picked it up and instead of it being my boss, it is an email reply to M4M Craigslist at looking for a femboy. That was 3 months ago. A couple weeks later, my boss was talking to a patient on his phone and handed the phone over to me to schedule him for an appointment. When I hit end call, a Yahoo instant message popped up asking if he was a thick comer. So I'm pretty certain at this point that my boss is trawling for dudes on the internet. Then a few weeks ago I was using his phone again, and this time the message was addressed to Sir and it said, "From your dress up doll." My boss is a prominent doctor in the community and married to a woman. A fake. I am the only one who knows other than him, and I guess his boyfriend said whatever. I just hope his wife knows. My stepdad, who is now a Sunday school teacher, confessed one time that during a rough time in his early 20s he sucked a guy's dock for a bump of coke. Friend of mine has never had a relationship. Claims to never have wanted one. He got real blackout drunk a few years back and told me the loneliness has basically killed him on the inside and he's just waiting to die. He's a good person. Very nice. Humble and respectful. So since he's told me every time he jokes about something or the subject comes up and he says with a cocksure grin that he doesn't want one and that it will never work out. That sentence echoes in my head. He just changes the subject, carries on, and I don't think he remembers telling me that. My ex was into cat stuff, but wouldn't admit it. He considered buying me a $75 set of cat ears and a tail butt plug. He wore a pair of anime cat ears I'd bought the one time on purpose. And he had, like, 2 nipples and 4 milk spots, which are little birthmark looking deals that are the beginnings of nipples. I shit you not. He was weird into cats. Yes. OMG. I once walked a very drunk friend home to his dorm room in college, and just before he got into his room, he pooped himself. Like, all over himself and all onto the floor. It was crazy. He was drunk and crying, he was so mortified. But I got him to the toilet and while he was in there I cleaned it all up. Nobody saw a godman thing. Got him back to his room and he fell asleep immediately. I threw his dirty clothes away in a dumpster on the way home. In the morning he didn't remember any of it. But he was pretty stumped on where his favorite shorts had gone to. I felt so stealthy. Would like to think he would do the same for me. Lol, I guess it's more my secret now. Co-worker of mine served time in prison because she watched her boyfriend kill their daughter. She's since had other children and is actually a fantastic mother. I don't know exactly what lead up to her daughter being murdered, but I've kept that from our other co-workers for the past 3 years. What the duck? Dart. When two adults are alone in a house and a kid gets murdered, it is possible both will go to jail even if only one of them had any control. Who knows what happened? She wasn't quick enough to stop him. Or was too scared to stop him. Maybe he just said she watched when she walked in after it was over. Maybe she had postpartum depression and was not paying any attention at all. My friend doesn't know her older brother is adopted. He is tall, dark, and has green eyes while they are short, light, and brown-eyed. Her whole family pretends he just looks like some faraway aunt. But really, he's from Europe. There are no pictures of him younger than 3 while there are tons of her from birth. I think she knows but is in denial. That he likes to suck big dick. I'd really like to tell all of our mutual friends. Since he took it upon himself to share everything I ever told him with our mutual friends. Sharing his secret would make me just as shitty as he is. So I am telling the whole interwebs instead. There's a country music superstar married a woman because she lied about being pregnant. But then lost the baby, so he divorced and annulled it. For some reasons. The lying about the baby thing never got out to the media. And not sure why. A former co-worker of mine is a mid-20s les currently engaged to a girl that basically brought her to this area. None of that is the secret. The secret is that she's recently realized she doesn't love her new fiance. She's actually crushing on her fiance's best friend but doesn't know what to do. 2 supervisors from that same department played a particularly mean prank on another supervisor. They took the phone of a girl he was crushing on, worked in a sister location, and texted him things that lead him to believe she was interested in him. By the time he figured out what happened, the girl was creeped out and he had to submit paperwork to HR. One of my closest friends cross-dresses secretly and doesn't know I know. He's ex-military and had gone to prison. He's a rough guy who grew up with a man's man kind of image, fixing cars, farm work, metal working out, etc. Found his ex-dressing kit when I was helping him move. Picked up a box that was under his bed and opened it to make sure it wasn't something fragile before I tossed it in a pile. Fake tits, a bra, panties, some dresses folded up with some of his jeans cut to look like Daisy Dukes. I put it back where I found it and picked up some more boxes to take downstairs. None of us would care if he told us. But it's his secret if he wants to keep it. When my ex was a kid, he used to get down on all fours and let his dog dry hump him. Well, one day the dog slipped all the way in and finished. There. I've said it. I am not dying to tell anyone's secret. But I know many. I'll drop something that the person who told me doesn't care if I let out. A good friend of mine, in her 30s, is dating a 17-year-old. And several other people. She's also married with 4 kids. Somewhat related. When I was 16, me and my best friend both ducked this 26-year-old friend of the family that already had a husband and 2 kids. She said she caught the husband one night giving head to one of his friends. She converted the attic into a room and me and my friend stayed there and we would take turns ducking her, while she made her husband stay in the smallest room of the house with the dogs. That lasted a few months until we moved. Last time I saw her she was now in her 30s dating a 17-year-old. Had a job where we had to drive occasionally for work. We had to provide abstracts periodically and carry third-party liability. My co-worker buddy came in one day saying he lost his license from too many speeding tickets. Not a huge deal for the company, there are other drivers. One night we are out for drinks and he tells me that the real reason he lost his license is that he is in the country illegally and his US license is now expired. Now, he was dodging some criminal sheet back home and came up to Canada. Nice guy. He assured me it was for some Mickey Mouse sheet back home. So I kept his secret. Still up here last I checked. Not tell exactly, but my friend has the creepiest loser older brother, and since she has confessed that he abused her as a child, I can't stand the sight of him. She's forgiven him though and has him around a lot. Yuck. I'd love to call him out for being a creep, but I never would. Years ago, one of my co-workers was working as an escort on the side. Another girl I worked with found out and hired her for a threesome with her husband. A recently divorced friend of mine started hooking up with our friend's girlfriend. He got wasted and told me one night. I couldn't say anything because it would literally destroy our entire friend group. I have carried this secret with me for 3 years now. I should also mention the guy being cheated on was generally a huge asshole to his girlfriend. So maybe it was deserved. They're split up now. A friend from high school now makes a living as a Christian mommy blogger and motivational speaker for churches. She makes good $sign portraying them as a picture-perfect family who overcome their sinful beginnings through Christ. They had a shotgun marriage in high school because she got knocked up. They fucking hate each other. She always has at least one boyfriend on the side. He got through college by making her do all his homework and fill him in on a few highlights to fake it through classes, apparently. His major was more essay oriented than test oriented. So it was easier to have her do all the work. She did that. Took care of their kids by herself. And worked full time while being berated by their church for it because she was stepping outside her proper place in the home. While he ran off to play with his friends, smoke meth, and duck hookers. He finally got around to getting an actual job recently. Now that he's been out of college for nearly a decade. But he still spends all his money on drugs, hookers, and goofing off. The household gets by on my friend's money. She's an absolute insufferable martyr and is the first one to throw stones at people who put up a less Christian facade than she does. One night recently, my wife and I were hanging out at another couple's house. Both ladies are beautiful and make us two guys feel very lucky. At one very drunken point late in the night, he and I got up and went to the next room over to make drinks. We could still see them, but they weren't really facing us and were deep in conversation. He and I made a couple innocent comments back and forth about how pretty they looked while making cocktails for everyone. I don't know what came over me, but I winked at him and said, "You wanna see mine naked?" His eyes went wide. Yes, he responded. We spent the next few minutes then, and a few other times when we were alone that night, showing each other our wives' nudes on our phones. We must have shown each other 40 or 50. No sending. Just showing. All while they sat 20 feet in front of us. It was ridiculous. I realize this is my secret, but it's his too, so I think it counts. Also, no. I will not show the pics for science. No matter how many people make that old joke. A good friend had money on a bank account in Switzerland to save taxes, and when the new laws were installed he turned himself in. Yeah, it is all clear now. But I am still his only friend who knows it. 6 years ago, my fiance's sister Gemma got pregnant. And then had an abortion secretly. She was 14 at the time. Afterwards, she struggled with her grades, dropped out of several schools, and changed her friendship groups multiple times. Last year Gemma finally managed to graduate high school from a flexible learning center. But her friendship patterns remain the same. And she can't keep a job. She struggles enormously with her weight and self-esteem issues. She holds everyone at arm's length, choosing to distance herself emotionally, where before she was extremely friendly and outgoing, really valuing her close friends. She also fosters a child, who is the same age as her child would have been had she not had the abortion. This child's mother is still alive and in contact with the child. However, Gemma encourages the child to call her mum. She is overly attached to this child and lives in constant fear of the birth mother taking her baby away. Gemma is mentally unstable and too emotionally immature to properly care for the child, and I really, genuinely fear for both of them. I know Gemma would benefit incredibly from some counseling and support from her family. She has never dealt properly with the loss of her child. I have spoken to her many times, but she isn't willing at all to share her secret with the family, as they are very conservative. I don't want to ruin any relationships, but I know if Gemma continues down this path, it could be very destructive. And now there is a child involved. I want what is best for both of them. I don't know what to do. Former best friend participated in a boot party where they curb stomped a homeless man to death. She called me drunk the next morning to laugh about the piece of his skull embedded in her boot. I never spoke to her again. I know groupthink is powerful and that the Sharps are basically a gang, but I could never wrap my head around that one. I'll always be grateful that I wasn't there. Some years ago I caught a 15-year-old boy while he was taking naked photos of himself in a bush in the middle of the woods. I didn't know what to say to a naked, embarrassed boy in the middle of the woods, so I just said good morning and went on with my walk. Every time I see him around the town he looks at me terrified. I'm late to the game here, but recently my boss sent me a long emailing confessing his love for me. He's in his mid-60s with 3 grown children and he is married to a very successful woman. I'm 26. Also married. I quit the same week he sent me that email. I was planning on leaving his firm anyways. I work in an industry that is dominated by men and I don't want my career ruined before it's even started. My buddy, let's call him Bob, and his wife have been trying to conceive for a while now. The stress got to them last fall, and they split for about 2 months. They make amends in December. Not 2 weeks later they announce they're pregnant. Hooray. Right? What he doesn't know is that she hooked up repeatedly with another buddy of ours, let's call him Chuck, during their separation. Right up until they got back together. I'm 99% sure the baby is Chuck's and not Bob's. A holier than thou aunt had a baby when she was around 16 years old after ducking some guy that was passing through the village and took a liking to her. Everything was consensual is what I heard. The baby didn't make it. Apparently the aunt suffocated it and then buried with the help of her mother. All the women in the family know, and when my sister found out she told me, but swore me to secrecy. Can't believe someone I'm related to is capable of something so ducking shitty, but that's the world we live in, I suppose. One of my co-workers cheated on her boyfriend with our boss. Now that I think about it, I feel like there might be a lot of this in this thread. My CO worker friend is totally cheating on his fiancée with different chicks when she's out of town. I sometimes hang out with her and she gloats so much how much other couples look up to their relationship. A file containing erotic fiction written by a formerly prominent political advisor for his own use came into my possession. It's really poorly written in all the worst ways, and it has poetry. I want to share it so badly, but it would immediately backfire on me. Huge. But it's just, comma, picture doing it work for the politician you hate the most, and you find on his computer fanfiction starring him and, no sheet, your former boss, male, cuckolding him. My best friend's sister has no idea who the fathers of her 3 kids are, and she has another on the way. She thinks this one's dad might have been a black guy. Her boyfriend is white. He thinks it's his. She's freaked about delivery day. Oh, and she's 21. Everyone thinks her boyfriend is the dad of all her kids.